All right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. I am, of course, Mind Runner, and I am excited because back in the studio virtually is one of my favorite people on the planet, one of the most wholesome souls on the planet, inspirational. If you're not already following her Instagram, I highly recommend it. She is one of the most badass angel wrestlers on the planet. You'll find out more about that, as well as a realistic soul as well that has a great perspective on faith as well as common sense. And she just happens to be 1992's Playmate of the Year. I'm talking about my good friend, Corinna Harney-Jones. Corinna, thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't even believe that intro. That's way too generous. That was so awesome. Thank you.
Well, where is the lie? Where is the lie?
No, it's so good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Worth celebrating. Let's get some confetti, some hearts, and some confetti because the world has not ended yet. And we remember our last conversation.
We're there.
Woo!
We're there. Pinch.
Yes. It has, although it's probably felt like that for both of us. I know both of us have had some serious illness bouts back and forth, and we're surviving. How have you been since we've last chat?
Good. I mean, we had to cancel, obviously, because my husband and I had gotten really sick, and then now you're just getting over the funk, and it's no fun, but here we are.
Surviving.
Yeah. And what have you been up to?
A lot. We've we now, of course, as far as the podcast, we're on Spotify now. I'm real excited about that, and moving a lot of other stuff. Plus, just kind of adding some extra shows. I've got a live show now on Twitter every Monday at 11 a.m. And my buddy Positively Chris, he does another podcast called Ignite That Light, and he's been co-hosting off and on with me on that, and it's been a lot of fun. And it's been really cool. I also, and I just want to share this. I didn't know I was going to speak about this, but yesterday, one of my guests who had Deb Housen, when 9 years ago, she celebrated 9 years ago, she recovered from her suicide attempt, and she just shared that on Twitter, being open. She tagged me in it too, and she's talking about how wonderful it is, how to not give up, and you never know what awesome things are waiting right around the corner. And to go from such a dark place to where she is now, how happy she is. And I encourage everybody to go back and listen to her both episodes, the one from early on and the one she recently did with me, about how she's moved in with her fiance. She's just really in a much better place mentally. And and so many people chimed in on how happy they are that she's still with us. And that's really cool, because that's the kind of stuff I love to share. I think a lot of times we get mired down in depression, or we don't see what's right around the corner for us.
Well, I have my faith, so I always believe that Satan's real, and I think that's what he does. He feeds us all these lies, about ourselves, self-doubt. We're not worthy. We're not good enough. We're not so many things. And then what's life for? And then you're hopeless. And yes, they see, I think that the invisible, these demons, see, they're like, oh, I don't want her to have that. And how beautiful that she was able to escape that. And see the big blessings, huge blessings that she never would have seen. But depression's real. It's a real physiological thing, that darkness. And I'm so happy for her. That's awesome.
And that feeling of helplessness. And again, it's easier said than done. But I think one of the cool statements, or I don't know if you've ever seen the movie What About Bob? But baby steps. I know it's such a funny part of the movie, but there is something to that. Yeah. Is you're not just gonna pull yourself out of depression like some people might say, like my dad would say, snap out of it. I'll give you something to cry about, or why are you depressed? I mean, that's
No, but
That's
it's hard. That makes it more difficult. And it is one step at a time.
it is. But you got to celebrate your victories too, I think. You've got to celebrate every step that you make, putting whatever it is, getting out of a situation, moving towards something. And I agree. I believe there's a divine push that it doesn't mean that it's going to be without pain, but it's usually pushing you into a direction that's going to be ultimately better for your life, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
And every time I've resisted that, I've actually been miserable. Every
Mm-hmm.
time but when I kind of follow through with it, I find happiness. And I never would have met Deb if I had resisted that. You know what
Wow.
I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of interesting how that
Wow.
works.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
But we are alive. We're living in very interesting times, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I was just listening to something. I might have been on Instagram where it it's it, it's just everything's negative, people are
Yeah.
fighting for something, but I think they're doing it the wrong way. It's like you don't have news. The fourth estate doesn't exist. We talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
You can't watch the news. It's all political. It's you're the bad guy and we're the good guys. You're the bad guys. It's like there's no solution. It's like people want to complain instead of, deal with yourself first. And that's part of, I always say freedom demands responsibility, and
Yeah.
responsibility is taking care of yourself. That's why your podcast is so wonderful, because it does start with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And loving yourself, and it is important you're who you wake up with every day.
Right. Do you think there's a danger? Because I believe there are some positives to social media, but do you think there's a danger in being so dependent on likes and, getting interactions and engagement where you depend on that for your own happiness? Because I've even found sometimes where I'll put out a funny tweet, or I guess it's an X post, whatever it's called now. And I'll put that out and I'll think, oh, this is going to be funny. A lot of people are going to like this, and I get nothing. And I am sad. I'm like, but then I'll put an innocuous comment about something and it blows up and everybody's like excited. I'm like, why did that?
Feels good. It's endorphins because of the word like it. I think psychologically, the way it's set up, it's, when someone likes something, it feels good. But my niece, a perfect example, my niece got in trouble for a post that she made. And it was totally innocent. I won't go into the whole detail, but everybody criticized her for it and didn't see it for what it was. I think now, people have no sense of humor anymore also. So she innocently posted something. She got all this backlash from school. She got in trouble. She got suspended. So my sister took her off of social media. It was a ban, took her phone. She wasn't allowed to be on social media. And the funny thing was that it was a misunderstanding. That's what's even crazier. She honestly did not mean it, was not malicious. So my poor niece, it was so hard on her. She was not only mortified, not only embarrassed, not only it was all these emotions she had to go through, but she will tell you the happiest, I forget how many months she wasn't on social media.
Mm-hmm.
The happiest she was engaged with life. She wasn't dependent on what the people in the social media are going to think of. But, I think if you have a healthy mental attitude about it, you don't let it bother you. I have like an anxiety. I posted something the other day because I got an email. I was supposed to do this movie and I was so excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really thought this might be an encouragement to other actors. I'm not the only one that's gone through this.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts because your process as an actor, not to jump around because I'm jumping right into my social media thing, and the psychology of it. I posted this video and it wouldn't all come together. It wouldn't all post because it was too long. So I put it in 3 parts. Well, I'm sitting by the fire. I had a tequila. So silly. But I felt like my heart went out to actors.
Mhm.
I was really, truly thinking, well, if this encourages someone, because I know I'm not the only one that goes through this. I'm going to go ahead and this is so rude. I can't believe I'm doing this. Can I let my dog in my office? Because he's
Absolutely. No,
crying and he's not going to stop crying. And you'll hear that.
totally
Hold on.
understand. I
Hold
totally
on.
understand.
And then
Everybody understands Momo, our
oh my
cat, who
goodness.
demands the window
Oh
open
my
at the
goodness.
most
Oh.
inopportune times. I'm surprised Momo isn't in here. I completely understand. Our cat Momo demands the
Oh
window
my
to
gosh. Oh my
every
gosh.
window in the house. No window in my office. She wants it. It's attention. We
Yeah,
want to
he
be
is
part
my
of it.
cat and he cries. He's like a cat. But anyway, I post this and then I have anxiety. There's so many times that I've posted things and I end up having this weird anxiety like, should I have posted that? Oh my gosh, I hope I didn't say something wrong. I start being real critical. And I said, you know what? It was from my heart. I'm going to post it. I may post more of those because acting is a marathon. It's a totally different medium. It's something art is very subjective, and
Yes.
I think Instagram is sort of that way. It's very subjective, and there's no other art form, like acting, I say, or creatives. Art is very subjective. So I'm thinking of a million things. That's why it's not coming out right. But anyway, I was so embarrassed after I posted. I'm like, why did you do that? But then I thought, if it helps one person, even
Mhm.
if no one likes it, and I think you and I talked about this, whenever I post anything that's about my faith or faith-based, I get nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Crickets.
But I don't, you know what? I've just recently, more than ever, really don't care. I know that sounds, but I really don't. Like
Mhm.
if Instagram and Facebook was wiped out tomorrow, even if I had 100,000 followers, even if I had a million, who cares? These people
Yeah.
don't really know us. They don't know you intimately. If you're there to offer a service, I think that's why some of these things are great. Like I really hope you grow.
Thank
If
you.
you're helping someone, that's wonderful. But then there's so many lies too out there. There's
Yeah.
so many things that are spread that aren't true, and that's terrifying.
Do
Or
you feel like there's a craving for genuine people, like not just like in media, but in general? Like, I feel like that so many people are finding just these ingenuine like news outlets or accounts, and it's like just
oh yeah, it's
going
getting
for
weird.
engagement.
No, I get followed by things and I look at it, I'm like, this is AI. This
Yeah,
isn't even a real human. Like it won't even be pictures of a human. Like, I know it's
yeah,
not. It's so bizarre. And then a lot of very weird, not that, Playboy magazine was a magazine that back in the day before social media that was for adults only. It was
hmm
known to be for adults only. There is so many weird sexually explicit things that are far more outrageous, if you want to call it outrageous, or sexual intention
yeah.
than Playboy ever was. And I see that a lot, and it's very vulgar, and I wonder this, I just can't help it. I
hmm
wonder if it's intentional, because why would a girl who's putting her butt up in the air and tweaking on a kid or something weird, like I've seen weird things,
Yeah.
why would that get 100,000 likes? That's weird to me.
Well, I'm curious where all of those likes come from, because there are definitely bots. Now, of course, going back to I'll put that innocuous tweet out there, and then a couple days later I get a like on it, and I'm excited, and it's Tiffany wanting me to buy Bitcoin
Oh
or
yeah.
show me her twerk video, and
Yes.
the link
Or
is in
go
the
follow
link
me
in
again.
bio, and I'm like, oh well, it's like, oh, well, I want real people liking. But yeah, I think there is something to that. There's a lot of that. It's everywhere. You see a lot of like you'll even see it on Facebook. You'll get a friend request from Tiffany, and
Yeah.
and you see a picture of Tiffany, and she's by the seashore, and she's like life is so tough being single. If only I can find a man. And I'm just like, great, but it's that kind of
And
stuff.
if
It's
you
like,
pay me
yeah,
the
but
monthly fee, if you join this, if you join that, that's another thing. I've been duped with the cancer thing. Because I really do like to get real information about health and staying healthy and staying cancer free. And then they want you to buy these things, and it's so weird. It's so bizarre to me.
They like to use the insane trick, or this life hack will help you recover from cancer without, and it involves toothpicks and honey or something. I don't know. It's like
you have to watch a video that's like an hour, and they make it so that you keep watching it, and then it's just fascinating enough. And then all of a sudden at the end, they're like, it will be $3,000 for this retreat if you join us, and you'll be perfect forever.
It's the digital equivalent of those timeshare vacations where you go on the vacation, but you have to go to these seminars, and then they try to close you at the end and say, hey, for only $10,000, you get to have this Jamaican getaway for 2 weeks out of the year. Oh, those 2 weeks? Yeah, it's usually in October, but it's still, it's good times. It's really. Now, I mean, I don't want to be mad at like capitalism or commerce, because some people are going to make that, they got to make their money, and people are out there trying to advertise their stuff. But do you feel like there's so much like fakeness? I don't know if that's the word for it, but the opposite of being genuine from a lot of places. Like I noticed this in just about any kind of fandom, whether it's sports, whether it's politics. A lot of places go for the click. They put the racy headline out there to get the click, but then you read, and like paragraph 6, it says, well, actually, that's not really true, or sources have unconfirmed, but blah, 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 blah. And in some cases, they don't even bother. Like journalism's kind of dead to the point where the major media outlets, they don't even bother. They're not afraid of libel anymore. You know what I mean?
That's something I'm so confused about, is the accountability factor. I think we've seen it more than ever at light speed in the past probably 15 years, even 5 years. I think in the past 5 years, I've seen things that I never thought I would see, where people do blatantly lie. They blatantly lie, and they're getting away with it. And there's no more accountability. That's confusing to me, because there should be a code of ethics. That's what makes us healthy. If you want to talk about mental health, if you tell the truth, that's a virtue. If you're honest, that's a virtue. If you have integrity, that's a virtue. And we don't discuss what virtues mean, and that it's like I think you said it the last time I was on here about the golden rule.
Yeah.
There is a golden rule. And instead, if even young people, if all they see is, oh, this is how you get ahead, this is how you get into the office of becoming the president, even, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if you can do underhanded deals, you can do whatever you want. And then it's mind-blowing. And just be honest. But I'm telling you, we're at a point, it's like the Constitution that made America so great. I love America. I'm a patriot. I love our Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist. I think it worked. I think it worked for a very long time. But I think that when people degenerate, and when I say degenerate, I think a lot of people with mental illness they're more sensitive to it, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean because you suffer from something going on. Also, sometimes it's because you see it and it hurts worse. I think that's what happens with addicts if they don't look to a higher power, or, they just want to mask that when they see how awful the world is and people are. But back to the Constitution, it's only as good as the people. It only works if you're honest. It only works if you're not a liar. It only works if you do the right thing. You know what I mean? You can't twist it and say, oh, except for if I'm going to lead the country, or if I'm going to be one of the people serving the people, as long as this person is going to line my pocket with a few million here and a few million there, I'll go ahead and go along with it. I'll compromise, because money talks. If that happens for a significant amount of time,
Yep.
all of a sudden it's going to crumble. You have elites that are running the show, and they really don't care. They're in their own bubble. They really don't know what it's like for the person that's now paying a fortune for their groceries and all of these things that happen from people being just not having ethics, not being, it's
lack of ethics.
Yeah.
Again, I need to get my aluminum foil for my hat, because there's several. Well, here's the thing. I don't knock any conspiracy theory, because so many have come true. There's so many that are like, wait a minute, that's a true thing.
I know.
Like,
I used to think people were a little off their rocker, and I wouldn't listen because it bothered me. I'm like, come on, that can't be. That's insane. I used to think sometimes people were weird. Oh, they're building things in laboratories, and the AI is going to do this. I remember hearing things and going, I'm going to not really listen to this person. And here we are. That was real. That was real.
It's like, what?
Here we are. It's real. Like, they're mind manipulating us. And they really are. They really are. With advertising, it started, but during World War II and even before, military would, they learned about mind manipulation. There's sound wave. There's all these crazy things. And then when you see it with your own eyes, you're like, and we just buy into it. Here we are going along with it.
Do you think part of the problem is that so many, and this could be also by design too, but so many of us are working paycheck to paycheck, or there's so many of us that are so overwhelmed that we don't have the time or energy to truly do any kind of critical thinking or like deep dives.
Yeah, like they do it on purpose. Yes. Yeah. They break down a society. Well, I to get deep on this subject, because I have friends, it's so weird to think about, like acquaintances. They're not friends, that believe in socialism, and they really in their heart think it's good because it sounds good, right? But if you read like Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, if you read these things, everything that's happening right now, it really is a radical agenda to cause people to have racial hatred, to forget about history, not understand history. And if you don't understand history and where we've been, you're going to be not only doomed to repeat it, but you're a pawn. And if you read, I always tell everybody, all young kids in America should have read the Orson Welles Animal Farm. And if you read that, you can see what's going on. And yes, they make it so that it's impossible for the little guy, and they don't want, they say capitalism is bad, which is a lie. And I have friends that'll say it's all because of money and corporations and greed. Well, yeah, there's a problem there with money and corporations and greed. But the beautiful thing about America was that you can, as hard as you work, that's what you earn. But we're also not taught virtues where servitude is a beautiful thing. You should be able to, if you were a masseuse, if you're a waitress, if you're, whatever job you have, you should love it and enjoy it. And
and have pride in what you do.
And have critical thinking and be able to enjoy life. And, if you're called to do something else and you want to work hard and you want to, sell something and make your millions, you should be able to do it. And anyway, that's what America was, and we're not that anymore. We're what you said. It's stressful. It's distractions. Quite honestly, we're collapsing. We're collapsing. Divided, we fall. I believe those fundamental virtues. Divided, we fall.
Is this growing pains though? Like, could this be? And I don't want to sound naive, and I want to just throw some optimism out there, but is what's collapsing the establishment And so, like, more and more of us are seeing, like, you and I are having this conversation. There's got to be plenty of other people out
Oh
there.
yeah.
So my thought is this. I mean, they've I think there's a weariness now of people trying to turn us against each other. If you go on social media, you do see that. But my grandfather used to always say, the emptiest cans make the most noise. You usually
Yeah.
the hear the most ignorant people making the most noise. So it sounds like there's all these idiots out there going, blah, 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 this and that. But in reality, it's like 10 people out of 300,000.
You're
But
right.
you hear those 10 people because they're and
Loud,
the
and
bots too.
so passionate. It's you because they're sincere, and you can be sincerely wrong.
Yeah, you can be a useful idiot. Yeah.
Yes, a useful idiot. Yeah, because conversation is awesome. I always respect people, whatever their
Mhm.
view is, wherever they're coming from. If you give courtesy and decency and respect, you're able to exchange ideas, and that's a beautiful thing, the exchange of ideas, and that's what we've lost. You just have people that have followers, and
Yeah.
then it's like all these sheep that go along and they don't want to think for themselves. Like you said, there's no critical thinking.
They become a slave to their followers too, because they can't post something that their followers will not ingest. Like,
Yes.
if they can't then suddenly say, I was kind of thinking about Trump. What?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're canceled. But it's interesting too. You talk about the nuance of having conversation. Your friend that is wants socialism. Imagine though, like having that conversation instead of just, I'm a socialist and I'm going to put that link in my bio and I got the right flag in my bio, whatever. But instead sitting back and going, so tell me, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
And not in an attack, like, they're ready for a debate. Just be like, well, explain,
And I have that conversation with
Mhm.
socialists where they explain why they feel like there should be universal health care, and there are things that are good, but did you know not one of them will listen to my point of view? As soon
Yeah,
as I start saying why that can't work, and it not my what my opinion is, because it's still an opinion, um I I get shut down,
how do they attack you, or do they just like blah 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 blah, like stick their fingers in
I've
their
had
ears?
both. I've had both.
Well,
I've
see,
had both. I've had people get really, and then I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I've given up though. So shame on me, where I'm like, I'm not going to share my viewpoint because, I'm just, it's too much. And I think I told you that, and I'm ashamed of it looking back, because if you let the empty cans make all the noise, and I would give up on social
yeah,
media. I've had people unfriend me because I've said things, about, I mean, from systemic racism to Donald Trump to, whatever the Antifa. I
hmm
even, sadly, but I'm friends with people. When I say friends, they're not my best friend. I don't love their views, but we may have a creative thread. We may
yeah,
have a creative thing that bonds us in a sense. I've worked for people that are radicals, to be honest, and I've
yeah.
seen posts where I'm like, oh my gosh, like you like Antifa.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that
Violent.
too.
They're violent. Like,
It's
what is
like,
happening?
what do you like about them? Well, I like how
Yeah.
they threw bricks.
Everyone's oppressed. You're just a colonizer. It's because you're white, you don't get it.
That
We're
oh,
white.
see,
We don't
shame on
get
you.
it. We're white. We've always been privileged.
Well, yeah, it's interesting too, though, because I feel like there's so much, we have so much more in common as humans than we
Yes.
have differences, and yet one or two differences suddenly is worth canceling a friendship over.
It's
And it
bizarre. I mean, I
it
had a friend since we were kids,
Mhm.
and yes, completely blocked me. And I was like, that is so weird. Or they try to correct me. They send articles. And I've been lazy. I'm going to be honest, because right away I've seen things that are untruths I've seen it when I'm reading, because I'll read what they send me,
Yeah.
and I'll see something that I'm like, that's not a fact. That's persuasive writing. They're
Yeah.
listening to something that never went through the court of law. They weren't in front of their peers and
Mhm.
there was never an outcome. It's all hearsay. And these people are supposed to be smart people, educated people. And I read it and I don't have the, they're trying to correct me. And I'm like, I just don't have the
There's a
patience. I'm like, I'm not gonna go. Why? And that's horrible, because they think what they think. You're not gonna change their thinking.
and a lot of it, I think, and I have relatives like this where their belief they get these core beliefs that are part of their identity. And this is one of the things as a teacher I try to teach the kids is that's why the scientific investigation, scientific method is so important, but it applies to non-science things, it applies to everything,
Mhm.
is your hypothesis is not your conclusion. Your hypothesis isn't you. And a lot of times, I think I might have brought this up before with you, where we were doing a magnets experiment, and we had 3 magnets. One was green, had a green sticker, one had a blue sticker, one had a red sticker. And his hypothesis was the magnet with the red sticker was stronger than the other 2. Well, I know all 3 magnets are the same strength. But
Mhm.
and some of the kids in the class kind of scoffed at his hypothesis, said, no, we're going to go with this. And of course, we proved that his hypothesis was not true. His hypothesis was wrong. Then I asked the class, I said, so we proved that his hypothesis was wrong. Does that make him a bad scientist? And they're like, and they kind of hemmed and hawed. And I said, no, you have to be a servant of the data. Your conclusion is formed from the data, not from your justifying your hypothesis. And we had this whole thing. But I think in society, that's a thing too, is I think so many people get emotionally invested. They have their identity in their hypothesis on something because it fills a need. Your
Mhm.
friend for socialism or your friend Antifa, it it's a badge on their coat.
Yes, it's
And if
something
you,
they belong to, and they become emotional and attached. That's like
yes,
religion. It's like it becomes your religion. That is, you're such a good teacher. I told you this before.
thank
The
you. Thank you.
fact that you're showing them objectivity, that's
Mhm.
objectivity, and that's critical thinking. And I still think you should write that book. You really should, because I think it would
Thank you.
help everyone, because just what you just said, it's gathering information. And if you don't get an outcome, you can't say that it's fact.
Yeah.
But when you
And
get, it's like with the magnets, when you see, and that is beautiful. It didn't make him a bad person, because it made him an amazing scientist to gather all of the information to come up with, your
mhm.
result. You have to get the information to come up with a valid, there is right and wrong. There is, but it, anyway, I don't want to get into that, but that's not, but science, that could help
Well,
everybody.
data is data. And one of
Yeah,
the things that I think is sneaky in society now is when people say my truth, because I think that's a sneaky way of saying my opinion, but making it sound more legitimate by
oh
saying
my
my truth.
gosh. Oh my
When
gosh.
it's really there is just truth.
Yes.
And then there's opinions, there's
Yes.
perspectives on
And
it.
things you feel, and things
Yeah.
you feel are not absolutes. It's a feeling, it's a response to something. And it's like our human soul has so many different things, and things that you
Mhm.
might be reacting to that affect things. And it goes on, but that doesn't make it truth. It doesn't make it, it's your truth, but that doesn't make it my truth.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway.
It's not like your truth is not. I have to accept your truth as truth. It's your opinion. I
Yes.
also think that, and I'm curious your thoughts on and especially I think in the arts and with acting and whatnot, you probably see a lot of this where you know people's emotions. I think sometimes people forget that when you feel an emotion, that's a legitimate feeling. It's the same as feeling hot or cold or feeling wet when it's raining. It's not about controlling your emotions isn't about not feeling that emotion. It's about how you deal with well, like the actions you take from that emotion. If somebody makes you angry while you're driving, it feels great to flip them the bird. You know, it feels
Oh,
great to cuss them out. But I mean, if you choose how to react to someone making you angry, you choose how to react to somebody making you upset or sad. But you can't help. I think sometimes people feel guilty when they get angry or they feel a certain way because it's like, why I can't believe I felt this way. I'm like, no, your feelings, your emotions are legitimate. But it's about how you handle those, what you do
yes,
with them.
rein
Does that
them
make
in.
sense?
Oh, absolutely. It's like if you're on the freeway and someone cuts you off, it if it's hard to be rational because you immediately become emotional. Most
Mhm.
of us, I mean, if we're to be honest, have gotten mad on the freeway, I imagine, from some idiot not paying attention. And that's what you're thinking. But are they an idiot? Do you know that person? They could be rushing to the hospital
Yeah.
because I mean, this happened to me when my husband was having a seizure and people were honking, and I was so in the moment emotional. I was so terrified. Blood's coming out of his mouth. I'm
Wow.
stopped in the intersection and people were honking and yelling, and you're a effing idiot, you stupid, blah. And I'm like crying. My husband, in my mind, is dying. I'm like, so I'm saying, I think even when you go through something like that, now I am more thoughtful, or an old person that is a little slower, or someone that's grieving
Yeah.
and those are the things, if you think you can, you won't react. And then if you think of it this way, but I learned this, believe it or not, in Bible study. I have one of the greatest Bible teachers. And I do apply these problem solving devices. There's different problem solving devices, and one of those, if you have anger, if you have reaction, bitterness, self-pity, worry, anxiety, there's these things. One thing he said one time in one of my studies was, uh, think about it. When you get angry at the person that cuts you off, you don't know if they did it on purpose. That's irrational if you think about it, to allow a stranger to take your happiness. You just allowed a stranger to take your happiness. And I think people are doing that all the time now with social media and with
Yeah.
everything. It's like, everybody's always angry. But, that's why I study the Bible. And that's me personally, is you 1 John 1:9, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, is the first problem solving device. I like how this pastor breaks it down and makes it technical. It's like,
Yeah.
and one of the things is rebound. It's like getting back in the game, getting back in the spiritual life. Because when you're emoting and you're, angry, whatever it is, jealousy, all of these things, you're not in God's plan. He doesn't want us to worry or fear, or, and he has problem solving devices. 1 John 1:9, if we name our sins, because God's a gentleman, we don't have to. If we do, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. We all have, we're born with that. That's what,
Yep.
With unrighteousness, when nobody's perfect, that's why we needed a savior. In my truth, when I talk about
Your truth.
my truth is the ground is flat at the cross, and Jesus died on the cross for everyone's sins. Doesn't matter what race, what religion, anywhere, anytime, anyone can place their faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ. To me, there's nothing more beautiful than that. And his grace covers a multitude of sins. And God's word tells us that he removes our sins as far as the east is from the west. He doesn't see us as man sees us. And he wants us to learn his word. And I feel like that's been my mental health. And problem solving devices, rebound, filling with the Holy Spirit. Faith rest means you trust him. You really relax. If you're afraid, I teach kids, and I say, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Psalm 56:3. That's
great.
Powerful. The word of God is alive and powerful. It works. Like, it works. And there's nothing more beautiful than that.
No, that is. And my mom sent me this thing. She used to have this painting, and she sent me a little. She didn't even realize the significance of it, but she sent me a little card. I've got to find it. It's buried in my office somewhere. but it's this guy, and he's steering a ship, and then behind him is an image of Christ with his hand on his shoulder, and he's pointing, and yeah, it's to me that's
Ugh,
a
I
symbol
love
of, like, people joke about Jesus take the wheel, but like I always think of this is like a circle. This is your realm of control. Everything inside is stuff that you can control, like paying your bills, making sure you eat breakfast, or doing the things that you have control over.
Mhm.
But everything outside is stuff that you can't control. The weather, what happens in Ukraine or Gaza, or there's things that you can't control. And when you worry too much about the stuff outside that circle, when you don't, like, I think a lot of us, we tend to get caught up on all the stuff out here. You you you're not leaving it to God. You're not leaving it to a divine power. Like, God's got this stuff. God's got.
I
You got
love
to focus on this stuff.
Yeah.
You got to focus on the stuff that's in your realm of control. But do you think sometimes, like, do you think that sometimes that maybe some folks who aren't believers, or people that aren't religious, or don't have a belief system, do they fill it with other beliefs, or it gets filled with, I always joke, I said even atheists can be some of the most fanatical people in the world, because it's almost like it's its own religion, and by definition atheism is not believing in anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you don't have God in your life, you don't have someone to take the wheel, then your anxiety, then you can't help but worry about the stuff that's outside your realm of control.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You see it all the time. It makes me
Hmm.
sad when if you don't have God, you play God. And if you're playing God, you're trying to
Hmm.
control those things, and you think that you're in control of those things. And really that's a very high opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
It's almost like people don't know how arrogant they are when they think that they can, stop certain things. We're going to stop war. We're going to stop. God is so much bigger than that, and he can. I mean, he could stop a nuclear warhead. That's how much I trust God.
Yeah.
He's powerful. But I think you're right. But then on the other flip side, and I know you've seen this up close, as we all have, I've seen unbelievers that are more well-adjusted. I don't know how to say it. More well-adjusted, better people, have more
Hmm.
virtue, have more integrity, are more honest, are better people. A lot
Hmm.
of people that I would rather be around, that I enjoy their company more than most Christians. So we're in a crisis in this
Yeah.
nation. I believe it. And I understand why people don't like Christians. They're legalistic, they're arrogant, they're judgmental, I've seen that. Like, I've seen that up close. On another note, and yeah, and you just wish people knew how big God was. He's bigger
Yeah.
than what we think he is. We're all unique. We're all individuals. I've even heard Christians say, "Oh, you shouldn't cuss. You shouldn't do that." You know what? If somebody's looking at me, like,
Yeah.
I am not the person to look to. I'm not gonna. It's not what we do, it's what he does through us. It's
Yeah.
not how we change. You don't change your personality. God made you who you are. He makes you more of yourself if you're really allowing him to take the wheel, like you said, and
Yeah.
you're really focused on it's simple, your day to day, and just I live my life as unto the Lord, and I it's nobody's business what I'm doing or who I'm around, or
Hmm.
that's not your say. You're not God. But as far as unbelievers who try to fill the void with other things, yes, they're only happy by their circumstances. So,
Hmm.
and I don't think their circumstances are going to be too bad because we live in the world.
Yeah.
So their circumstances can be very good because there's nothing trying to keep them from where they are. They're already unbelievers destined for judgment. So you
Yeah.
think if Satan's the ruler of the world, which if you learn the Bible, he is, this is his system, it's his cosmic
Hmm.
system, then people are functioning in interlocking systems of arrogance, interlocking systems of hatred. And so if that's all they are, and then they can get rich by it, they can get this from the world, that from the world, I can get fame, I can get everybody loves me, whatever it is, they don't even have to look to God. They're filled. They're like, oh, I'm happy. Look at it. Everything's going my way. Why would God doesn't exist. I've done this on my own. And then
Yeah,
there's
then you become a senator.
yes, yeah. Then you become the president.
Yeah.
There-
You can run
oh,
California in the ground and then just
yeah.
bide your time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, because your hair's nice.
Exactly. I don't quite have
and
Newsom hair. I'm trying, but well,
oh my
and it's
God.
interesting too because like the amount of vitriol and venom that I see when anyone brings up Christianity, it's very disproportionate. Now I understand if people have issues with Christianity because of the stupid things that humans have done in the name of Christ. You know,
Yeah.
it's never really Christ itself. It's the you know, I remember me and my buddies were going to a bar in Florida, and on the corner across the street was this guy and his two sons, and they're screaming at us with these Bibles, and they're talking about, you're gonna go to hell, you're gonna go to hell, you're gonna burn in the fires. And I'm just sitting there like, that's not, I
That's so
don't think
weird.
Christ would be doing that. Christ would go into the bar, sit down, and have a conversation,
Yeah.
and be much more
Those were his
persuasive.
friends. His friends were the prostitutes, the tax
Yeah,
collectors, and he really loved them. He would rather be around them. You'd rather be around someone who knows who they are.
yes,
It's like a prostitute who knows this is what I do as a living. This is my living. That's more honest to me than some idiot. Like, that's a psycho Christian that's
yeah.
yelling, you're going to hell. Like, oh, I'm going to join right up with whatever you're.
They got free drinks. Some of that, yeah.
But what's sad is, there's a passage in the Bible where Christ, at his judgment seat, or at the great white, there's two different judgments in eternity. It's so fascinating to me because I love studying. But the great white throne judgment is for unbelievers only. And there's going to be a lot of very religious people. There's going to be a lot of people that have those Bibles yelling at people. There's going to be a lot of people that were the world thought they were amazing. And they're going to say, well, Christ will say to them, you said, Lord, Lord, because they went around saying, the Lord, this. You said, Lord, Lord, but you never knew me. Because it's grace, and nobody gets that. It's grace. Our righteousnesses are as filthy rags in his sight. There's nothing we can add to what he accomplished for us. Nothing, not one thing. We're nothing. When you know that, I mean, the world will tell you love, self-love, all these things. Well, if you have the word of God in your soul, you can't help but love yourself because it's truth, it's pure,
exactly.
It's beautiful, it's rich, it's everything, it's infinite. So it's just, I love God's grace. It's by grace,
It's interesting. I just had a thought, and I've every time I've felt inferior or insecure or had that imposter syndrome, it's when I'm comparing myself to something in the world instead of who I am.
Wow.
And where I came from. Like, if you only compare yourself to where you were yesterday or like the path that you've gone on, you see the glory in your life. But whenever I've felt inadequate, and I know that people say that comparison's a thief of joy, what have you, but I've always, whenever I felt inadequate, it's always because I'm comparing myself to something worldly. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I just went through my whole self-pity. I was so hurt. I was so excited to be a part of this film, and he cut my part, but but that's the world. And I looked at it and I was cut out of this club in my mind, and I'm like, at first I did the same thing. This is just a little thing. I know it's not a big deal, but it was to me. And I thought, it hurts because you want certain things. But then I reevaluated everything spiritually. I went, no, I am so grateful. Because I always pray. I'm like, Heavenly Father, You love me with an infinite love. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You're the one with the plan. And what I don't understand is your plan, and you always have better for us. He
Mhm.
doesn't look at us like man looks at us. He looks at our heart, and he knows us intimately. He knows what he wants to give us, and he wants to bless us out of our tree. There's nowhere in the Bible that says, I want you to crawl through broken glass and feel like crap. And guilt is a sin. Self-doubt is a sin.
Mhm.
When I learned that, I had to study those things to learn it. I learned these things through scripture. I'm like, yeah. So, Heavenly Father, I am so sorry that I would ever feel less than someone. I'm so sorry that I thought that was going to make me happy. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that I sometimes, like you said, that circle that you just showed, I'll
Yep.
get my eyes, and it could be, there's so many things outside that circle, and it could be one thing that you want so bad. And then there's a doctrine in the Bible about that, putting it on the altar. I don't
Mhm.
want this. If it distracts me from you, Lord, and my loving you and what you have for me, I don't want it anyway. I don't want it. You can, you take it.
Absolutely. And that I think that helps too. It helps in a lot of situations. It helps in like toxic environments where, yeah, I remember when I first started teaching, there were these 3 teachers on my grade level, and they called themselves the Mean Girls. They loved that moniker because they would purposely, whoever the new teacher was on the grade level, they would exclude them and things, and they
Oh,
would go out, they would do things and be sneaky, and it was a real hot mess. The principal should have really put her foot down on him, but then they got me on the grade level. And of course, my attitude was, I'm not stuck on the grade level with you. You're stuck with me. So we're going to do this. And I was, not to brag, but, God gifted me with some being an awesome teacher. The kids loved me. The following year, all the parents wanted their kids in my class and all this stuff. And I did all these cool things. But the interesting thing was when I realized that all the things that they were saying and doing were external, and they only affected me if I allowed it. Now that sounds easier said than done because you can't help it. You're working
no,
on a
and
grade
it's a
level.
test at the time. I
Yeah,
think God brings those tests because because they are trying to build their happiness on someone else's unhappiness.
yes,
And that's just, that's on them. Yeah. And the hard part is knowing it doesn't mean anything about me because they're excluding me, and they do it. It makes them feel good.
yeah,
That's not true happiness. And they're not making it, like you said, the kids loved you because you're really teaching. You're not being it's amazing to me how many adults who teach children are that immature. Like,
hmm,
would play that game. They probably watched Mean Girls and thought it was hilarious, and wanted to
I'm
emulate it. It's just
Regina. Or
so weird. No, but I mean, I hear you, but it hurts really, really bad. But when we
yeah,
truly, and those are tests. Like, to me, it because I've done it where I put it back in my hands. I put it back in my hands. I put it
yeah,
back in my hands. Like with the tests like that, when you're being excluded, you're being purposely excluded. They're having such a good time. They're leaving you out, whatever it is. They do it on purpose, and they are. It's a gut, and it hurts. It really hurts. And in your heart they're doing it on purpose. It's so bizarre and difficult. But when we, like you said, really truly say, okay, you got this, you got my lightweights. I'm not gonna
yeah,
pray for them. They say pray for your enemies. Until you really do, because I do pity people like that. And
yeah,
I shifted my mindset not long ago. I'm a major work in progress. I shifted my mindset where that's who I pray for. Now that's
yeah,
who I pray for all the time. And I've seen their attitudes change toward me. And it is
yep,
so interesting to me. And they know what they're doing. They know what they're
hmm,
doing. And it's a competition. They're competing, whatever it is. And they're jealous. And it doesn't matter what someone looks like externally. It's sometimes what it's who you are sometimes, because you have
hmm,
integrity. You're an effective teacher, and they're not, and they know
yeah,
they're not. And I'm finding this, not to go off on a rant, but it's so exciting to think about. I was thinking of this morning when I was doing a Bible lesson about if you listen to these politicians, if you listen to our leadership, sadly, we don't have leadership. And you'll hear people and what they say and what they accuse others of
Yep.
is what they are guilty of. It's a real
Yep.
thing. They project their flaws onto you. You're a coward. If say, if I took it as rejection being cut from this film I just did, I could slander this director, be upset. I could say, oh, it's because he's this and that. No, it's not. He doesn't know what he did, and that's none of my business. And
Yeah.
if the movie's better because he cut me, when you have that attitude, it is healthy and it's real. And I really do trust God. Okay, I wasn't supposed to be in that film. It wasn't for me, but it works everywhere. If I'm not supposed to be part of that group, why would I want to be? It's not fun. They gossip about people. Anybody that's gossiping about someone is going to gossip about you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a friend.
And then you become kind of a slave to that group, because it goes back to the same thing. When you have 1 billion followers, it's the same thing. You have to follow that meanness.
Yeah.
Or if you start to go, well, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're the outcast.
Crowds, yes, it's like with a crowd. That's why anybody that's famous or put on that pedestal, it becomes iconoclasm. And iconoclastic arrogance is you build up this icon, and then you just as easily cheer for it when it's doing what you want. But as soon as it doesn't do what you want, you're going to boo. Boo. People love to boo.
Boo.
Yay. Boo. That fast in the same.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
That's awesome. Exactly.
And that's why I think it's important for us to, with our heroes, to make sure we remember that everybody's human, because and they're going to be flawed.
When you see their feet of clay, you don't throw them away. People are not to be thrown away. With a friend, if you're a true friend, if you're you can give good advice to friends, but you don't throw people away because they're not doing what you want them to do or saying what you don't want. That's freedom.
Yeah. That is, I think that being a teacher, being an elementary school teacher, I got to see, and this has helped me with my perspective on adults, because when you're in 3rd grade, that's the beginning of you starting to form who you're going to become. That's you're going into the oven, and then you're going to be baked into this thing. And I see on such a small scale, like a younger scale, these personalities. And there's some personalities that I think, oh, that person's going to grow up to be a counselor. That person's going to grow up to be an astronaut. And then I see that person, I hope they don't grow up to be a climbing the clock tower or anything like that.
Serial killer.
But I think what I started to see is adults for the little kid they used to be. Oh. And that has helped me with, like having a little more compassion for even my quote unquote enemies, people that have wronged me, because I step back and realize, are they really my enemy? Are they an enemy at all?
Yeah.
Or are they just, this is how they're getting through the world. This is where they are.
Yes. Yeah.
And why should I waste my time? Why should I change who I am because of something they did, and instead embrace, like you said, pray for them. And not in a condescending way. I think sometimes,
like you really genuinely from your heart want them. You want them to be happy and healthy, and that's a real thing. An interesting thing, like talking about science and gathering facts and gathering information to come up with the hypothesis. One thing that I've gathered from my friends that I care about, that I bonded with at a young age, even starting then, about 5th grade, they didn't have a mother and a father. Their parents were never home. This is kind of an interesting thing that just hit me. And I care about them. We bonded, and a lot of them would take on my family as their family because they didn't have a family. And many of them have very, very far left thinking, to be honest, and I don't know that they can see that objectively. but that's something real. Like
Yeah.
everyone I know that really has these radical thoughts of, how to make the world a better place when it doesn't, if that makes sense. It's godless. They're atheists, for one thing. A lot of people I know, and that's, I think that's part of the invisible, where, God wants us all to come to know Christ as our Savior. And I think of that. I'm like, well, you already had a bad shot out of the get-go because you weren't loved. And they'll tell you, my mom didn't love me. My dad, I didn't have a dad, or I just had a dad, and he, whatever it was. That's an interesting thought too.
It's hard to have a concept of a concept of a divine paternal influence when you didn't have an actual.
Yes. So there's something that that's worth investigating as a, just a kind of a little study. Yeah, that's true, because you're exactly right. If you never had a loving father that guided you, you would never be able to identify with one. You think the world,
mother too.
Yeah.
I think God is kind of mother and father. Both sides of that thing. I think I find it interesting too that a lot of people, a lot of friends, as well as I've seen some celebrities that 10, 15 years ago, they would classify themselves as far left. They haven't really changed their views, but now they're being called alt-right, or they're being called right-wing. Like Joe Rogan, Jimmy Dore, a lot of like Russell Brand.
And they're just independent thinkers. That's what I would say. We need good Democrats. They would have been good Democrats, because they really are more liberal in certain ways that I think are better for our country, to be honest, for freedom. So it's bizarre, but it's really bizarre how we've shifted.
It's almost like you got to smear the person so that you don't hear what they have to say. It's an attack on, well, that person's just
it's character assassination.
Yeah.
It's total character assassination. Yeah,
exactly. Speaking of assassinations, though, I mean, we could keep going, but
I know, how long have we been on here?
I want to talk about some assassinations from one of the most brutal professional wrestlers dressed as an angel. I understand that's how close are we to wrapping and this coming out?
So we are going into post. We just did some pickup scenes, and oh my gosh, I think we have 3 more things we need to shoot. One of them being in the ring for some fun out. I'm so excited about that. Very cool. I'll probably get to jump off the ropes. I'll be like, oh.
Nice.
I'm so excited about this. Whole film is so insane and so crazy. And then we have to get the music all lined up. We're looking at a few different people to do the score. We want it very like that synth 80s.
Like,
what's his name? What's his name that did all the
and then you thinking of like Jason and Freddie, like all those
like
80s synth.
There's a director, I don't know, he's leaving my mind right now, but I love all of his music. So we want it kind of punk rock too, and Las Vegas punk rock community that I was in growing up.
Nice.
So it'll be a lot of like synth goth, like some kind of synth goth punk music. It'll be interesting. And then the sound design, I won't say who I'm hoping does our sound design, but if we have all of that, I think we have a solid, entertaining film that you and your wife will laugh.
Well, if it's combining wrestling with slasher, we're there. We're so there.
Yes, it is. It's insane.
Have you grown in appreciation with women's wrestling since you've been doing this?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like, I'm a fan now. I need to jump into it more. I did it as research. I was telling you, I never really was into wrestling, and then I watched. And this was after I had already come up with my character, and I was blown away by that there's a wrestling show when the women first started wrestling. How come I can't think of what
you're talking about? Glow wrestling. Glow. Mm-hmm.
So I watched that and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I'm on the right page. And then just the heel and the psychology of it and the theatrics and I have such an appreciation. And I was one. Admit it that that's not real, and it's very physical. And they get hurt. Nobody comes out unscathed. I'm telling you, all of them have had back injuries, guaranteed, and all kinds of injuries. So it's pretty physical. It's pretty outrageous. It's over the top, but it is magnificent. Like, I am all in now with wrestling. I get it. I like the claw. I like all the old school ones, and we kind of paid an homage to a lot of different of the greats, and that's going to be fun for people that love wrestling, that will notice certain things and go, oh, I like that they added that little thing.
That's one of the things I liked about the Glow TV show that they did on Netflix is they changed the names, but you kind of knew if you were a fan of the 80s Glow show that they did, you knew who was who. Like, was it Zoya the Destroyer was Ninotchka?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And was it Machu Picchu was Mount Fiji? And you could tell.
Yeah, and wrestling. I did not even know that. So now I'm gonna have to find all of this old wrestling, because there's so much story and what they put into it. And I love all of the characters in Glow. So to go look up the real deal, I'll have to do that.
I highly recommend. Check it out. My favorites. Dee Boer played a Matilda the Hun. She was this really big orange-haired woman, and she would come and dress like she was like Attila the Hun. Oh, she had like furs, and she would eat like raw meat in front of everybody, and she would scare the kids. And she'd go ha 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 ha, and she was such a great heel. And of course, Mount Fiji was this big Samoan woman, and she was the baby face. And so they were always fighting, and like whenever Matilda the Hun would scare all the kids, and then Fiji would come in and save the day, and it was always
I love it. And the heel has a big job. It's like the best. The more I've learned about it, I love it. I really, my hat goes off to wrestlers.
Do you see, like in politics, how that kind of heel baby face, heel kind of psychology relates a little bit? Like,
yes. Have you seen the movie Idiocracy?
You mean the documentary?
I think, yes, the documentary of the decline of America as we know it. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you.
Terry Crews at Mountain Dew. What was his name? Macho Camacho Mountain Dew.
Yes, and then the president does it. They don't know how to. I think we've come to that.
It's got electrolytes. It's got what plants need.
Yes, exactly.
What's scary is how close, like, watching that
People
recently.
Name their kids chapstick now and let their kids go in litter boxes. I mean, we're there. Even more so.
And what was their number one TV show was Ow My Balls. And you look at what's on TV now, like, was it Ridiculousness and all these?
Oh my gosh. It's like we look up to all these. It's like, it is Idiocracy. We look up to people that are totally out of their minds. Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Oh,
well, Corinna, it's been awesome. I actually am introducing a new part of chatting. I actually have some DMs and emails from some listeners for asking for advice. Would you be up for offering some of your unsolicited, super professional advice for some of these friends?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna pull them up. It's and I want to play my intro. This was my Japanese kawaii intro for DMs and emails. It's a very Japanese pop bubblegum intro. So here we go. It's time for DMs and emails. Nani? All right, that's
the best thing I think I've ever seen. Like, that is the best thing I've ever seen.
Especially the end of me flying in the Japanese anime manga,
I
kind of
love
look good.
anime too. This is perfect.
It's just so happy. It's just a thing. All right, here
Yes, it does. It made me happy.
now the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but Already, this is from Depressed Friend. It's Hey Mind Runner. Lately, my friend's been acting kind of off, like she's been distant and moody, and it's got me worried. Every time I try to check in on her, she just shuts me out or snaps at me. I'm pretty sure she's dealing with some serious depression. She lost her job a while back, and money has been tight for her family. Plus, she's been struggling to sleep and has zero motivation to do anything. I really want to be there for her, but I'm not sure how to approach the situation without making things worse. Any tips on how I can support her through this rough patch? I just want to see her get back on her feet. Thanks a bunch for any advice you can give. Cheers, Riley.
Oh my
What are your
goodness.
thoughts on Riley for
Oh,
Riley?
that's tough. It's tough because, you can only try and offer. Sometimes people do need space. Maybe she needs space and you can do that. But if you're really concerned, like if they become suicidal, you really do
Yeah.
want to intervene and get as much help as you can and get professional help. I would say. But sometimes people need their space. And the only advice I would give is love them and tell them that. Say, listen, I care about you. I know you're having a hard time. If there's anything I can do, I'll, let's go for donuts. Let's go, whatever's going to cheer you up. Let's go roller skate. Think of something fun. I do that. I used to do that with my friends to cheer them up. I'd be like, let's, whatever it is, it's whatever you think will be fun. Let's go run. Let's go run through the sprinklers. Let's go run through the sprinklers at a park. Let's just do it and scream our heads off, anything. But if they're not down and they just want to sulk, let them say, hey, go sulk, do what you need to do. I'm sorry to invade your privacy. I'm going to give you your privacy, but please let me know you're okay. Yeah. That's all you can do as a friend. Let me know, just please, because I do care about you and your well-being matters to me. I don't want you to do anything stupid, but if you need help, please reach out. Please tell me what I can do. If it's within my power, I will do it. Anything I can do within my power, I will do. But other than that, sometimes people have to go through their thing. And anyway.
I love that. No, because I think a lot of times people need their space. They do need, and sometimes whatever they're going through, sometimes just some some time by themselves is what they need. But I like what you said too is, hey, I love you. I'm here. Like the door is open, but I'm going to respect your privacy, but let's go do something. And physical exercise, I know it sounds counterintuitive because that people are depressed or like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. But physical exercise has a way of really just releasing endorphins and just suddenly snapping you out of things.
Yes,
so I love running through the sprinklers and screaming.
Yes,
that might actually be the most and then you might be surprised at how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
All right, I've got the second one here. This is my wife, the Bar Bay. Okay, this is interesting. Hey man, I need to talk to someone about some serious stuff that's been going down lately. My wife's been pulling some really sketchy moves and I'm not sure what to make of it. She's been spending way more time at work, and then she's going out with her coworkers for drinks like all the time. The other night, she came home wasted and passed out on the couch. And another time, she straight up didn't come home until Saturday morning. When I confront her about it, she just brushes it off like it's all part of her sales gig, and I shouldn't trip. But I can't shake this. Listen to me say I shouldn't trip like I'm, hey, you fellow kids. But I can't shake this feeling that something's not right. She swears up and down she's not cheating, but I don't know if I buy it. I'm torn, man. Should I trust her and let it slide, or is it time to start asking some serious questions? Appreciate any advice you got, Landon.
Oh, this is another one. It's so crazy. I believe our guts tell us a lot. Our guts tell us a lot. And if something seems, if you think she's cheating and she's dodging that or getting upset, that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it says, well, he says wife.
Wife. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be jealous and accusative, and if you know that you're predisposed to that, I mean, that's a tough business in like bartending
Yeah.
and anything like that is it's hard for a man anyway, especially if his wife is out. And but if your gut's telling you something, her behavior's changed and she's not interested in you, that is kind of a red flag. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds like something, if I were you, um, you'd have to just face head on and ask her point blank, just be honest with me. Or honesty, that's so tough. I don't know that I have good advice for that, because I've seen people that are just jealous of their wives. It doesn't sound like he is. It sounds like he really has a gut feeling that something might be going on. And I don't know what advice to give.
And there's usually 3 sides to every story: his side, her side, and then the truth is in the middle.
Yeah,
There could be.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard being married. How long did he tell us how long he was married?
It does. I don't think it said. It said no, just said late. My wife's been pulling some really sketchy moves. I'm not sure what to make of it.
But if she's working late, times are tough too. She may just be hustling and working her poor butt off and just tired. And if you work late shifts, and bartending is tough, she may just, and then bartenders sometimes take a few drinks just to let the edge off. And she may just be like not wanting to be social because she's working really hard. So it's hard to accuse someone, if you don't have all the facts. I would hope that he would just have a sit down with her and let her know how he feels about it.
I think that's exactly. I mean, communication, I think, is that's what. If Deb and I weren't on the same page, communication wise, we would not be together. No. And that's so important in a relationship. And when you communicate, it's not just, hey, this is my truth. This is, or anything like that. It's, this is how I feel. This is what I
dog out because he's crying. Absolutely. I'm so sorry, he won't stop crying.
Absolutely. While you've got to be able to let your dog out. Yes. If your dog is yelping, you've got to.
He tries to get in and he cries to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
That's advice.
But communication and not becoming emotional and hearing it out, because we also go through things where you do want to kind of escape sometimes. And sometimes she may have a friend that she's talking to and sharing things with, but in a marriage relationship, you want to be able to do that with each other. You don't want, anyway.
Well, I got to share this because it makes me feel good to share it. But Deb was with her coworkers, and they this is before sickness or anything. They were asking everybody, who's your confidant, who's your number one, who's the person you confide in, and they're all talking about my friend Sonia or my friend this person. And when it got to Deb, she said me, that I'm her confidant. And I'm like, and she's mine. And I just like, to me, that just, made me feel so cool. But I think that's important too. I think this guy, Landon, has got some heart. He's got a serious conversation he's got to have, but don't approach it as these are the things that you've done to me. Mm-mm. Come into it with, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I see, but also, I want to understand your side too.
Yeah, what can I do to be the person you're spending time with?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if she's spending time, what can I do to be a better listener? And sometimes that's all it is. It's a miscommunication. And if he's coming from a place, if somebody's coming from a place of criticism or a place of accusation, you can't open up. You can't. And it's, oh my gosh, in my marriage, we're two totally different people. It's been so difficult. And I'm like, this is an outlet for me. I love having these conversations. And the truth is, he's not a conversationalist. And then he had that brain tumor, and there's just certain cognitive things that are a little different, but he's so funny. And the older we get in how, just our relationship has evolved, and he gets me. He just gets me. Like
Mhm.
I'll make him laugh, and that feels good. And he makes me laugh. And, we get each other, even though we're two totally different people.
Yeah.
It's anyway, it works. Everybody has their different things, but it's worked.
I think we all want to feel like people that our significant other gets us.
Yeah.
We don't have to be the same. It's funny. Deb is much more the sports fan than I am. Whereas, but like she's also such a girly girl and everything else. Like she loves like getting her nails done. She loves smelly candles and like potpourri and all this. And if there's a cockroach, she's like this. But then when she flips a switch, when it's talking about the Chicago Bulls or the Chicago Bears, or the Blackhawks, she's like, yeah, well, they shouldn't have traded so and so because of
All the players, all the way they play.
Big
I
time.
love
It was funny because we went out to eat at a steakhouse, and the manager came over to see how we were enjoying our meal, and he starts talking. Of course, this is when NFL was still going, and he starts talking to me about football, and like I'm just kind of like, sports, yes, sports, and then
cool.
Deb starts chiming in, and she starts talking. Well, the first thing they got to do with Brady is they got to and then it was like you could see this, like his whole schema was being upended. Like
it was like, wait,
she's the big sports
yeah.
fan. So
That's
it's pretty funny how that happens. We have one more email DM here. This, and then let me go to this one. This is from Take This Job and Shove It. Oh, I like this one. I like this one already. Hi, Mind Runner. I'm feeling incredibly stuck and miserable in my job right now. It's draining me emotionally and mentally, but I feel trapped because I need the money to cover a bulk of the rent for the place I share with my roommate. Living paycheck to paycheck has me feeling scared to even entertain the idea of quitting. The struggle is real. What should I do, Carly?
Oh, man. Well, Carly, I'm going to be praying for you because that is tough. And I think a lot of people feel your pain right now. Maybe take comfort in knowing you're not the only one. I mean, people can't even afford to it's like gas or groceries today, which is so difficult. So you probably feel like you're in just what you just said. It's like this crazy vicious circle. I'm going to be praying that you do find something that you're happy with. But I pray that you find an outlet that you can enjoy, something that is even if it's an hour a day, because sometimes when you're overworked, you don't even want to do something, but really assess what brings you joy. Like write it down on a piece of paper.
Great idea.
What do I like? What makes me happy? What do I want to do? Sometimes that'll lead you in the right direction to change jobs and have the courage to say, you know what? I don't have to, because the beautiful thing is we don't have to be stuck in anything. So, the reason you do is because you have bills to pay and you have to be able to pay rent. Keep going. You can't quit right now, but have fun in the process of looking for something else and finding options. Start looking for options now and find joy in that. Find joy in, oh my gosh, here's a job I could possibly make more, or if it's equal pay, the same amount you're making, and really look at it and start putting your feelers out and maybe have fun with that, so that you know that you have options, even if you don't quit right away.
Absolutely.
But I would do that. And I mean, I hope that's
well. And I the power of prayer too, because doors will open, and if you're seeking, and I think that a lot of times these situations, I felt this myself, where, what I was talking about earlier, when you resist being moved in a direction, I feel like Carly could be in the situation where, God's moving them into a different direction. Obviously, feeling miserable, you're not where you need to be. You're not in your place.
No.
And you might it may take some time and some prayer and some hard work to find your place. But exactly like you said, write down what brings you joy.
Yeah.
And I think those opportunities will present themselves. So
I think so too. It finds us, And sometimes it takes a minute to figure that out. I don't know how old Carly is, but sometimes it takes a minute to figure out what we really love. But then that's the fun thing is like, wait a minute, I was so upset, and it'll be something way better. You'll go, whoa. Like,
big
I
smile on
actually
your
enjoy
face.
coming to work, and I feel well rested because I'm not overworked, whatever it is.
And in some cases, like when I started teaching, I left a high paying sales job to become a teacher. And like, even though my paycheck took a big hit, I was enjoying what I was doing because I was
doing.
Yeah, I felt like I was in my place, as many, and like I said, like when those kids would say I'm their favorite teacher, or I had a student that went on to another school, but he had his dad drive by to see if I was still there the following year. Those kind of things, to me, those are the rewards.
Yeah.
It's not,
monetary.
Yeah, well, granted, the monetary would be great, but I mean, that's a whole separate argument. But that's what really makes
Write your science book.
Yes.
Write your science book.
Got it. I got to do it. The science of critical thinking, or something like that.
Yes.
Well, Corinna, this has been awesome, and maybe we should do another check-in every couple months. We should do a check-in.
Yeah.
We'll call it the End of the World podcast or something.
Right? Yes. Well, the world is collapsing around us. We'll do our podcast.
We'll call it Yay Cancer. I forgot to ask you.
Yay Cancer. Oh, I had normal. Everything's been normal. I didn't even tell you that. My last, not that you want to hear about my mammogram, but my last mammogram was normal.
Yes.
And I made a decision. Yeah. And talk about trusting God. I was on this medicine they had me on. And even the last time I was on your podcast, I felt horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt so bad. I got off the medicine. I prayed about it. And I said, if you want me, if this is going to, no, I trust God. We got rid of that. It's gone. I'm not going to.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Confetti. Congratulations. That is awesome. That is awesome. Kicking cancer's butt. Just like your favorite wrestler with angel wings, kicking cancer's butt.
I tapped out. Well, that's UFC, but still.
You can still. Yep, you did the 1, 2,
elbow.
3. Ding, ding, ding.
I flew off the ropes and
the flying burrito.
Yes, I'm flying burritoed.
Excuse me. Cough's coming back.
Yeah.
Well, Corinna,
throat coat tea.
Absolutely. I got the tea. I got the lozenges. I got the good stuff here.
It's always so good talking to you. It made me feel, it's just so good. I love what you're doing.
Same, and I appreciate that. And it's always great talking to you. I feel like my bucket gets filled, and I'm the one trying to fill buckets.
You are. Yeah.
It really feels great. So maybe we can make this like every couple months. We could just do a check-in and talk about where we are in society, especially when we get closer to like November.
Goodness. My husband keeps saying there's going to be a civil war. You watch. I'm like, I hope not. My gosh. It's like you can't even believe what's going on. It's
unbelievable.
So weird.
Anyway. Well, Corinna, before we go, any final words of advice, more than a fortune cookie, for our listeners, for any kind of advice you'd like to give to them?
Well, if you've been considering or thinking about that there's a higher power or God, ask for yourself. Ask and ask, and you shall receive. And just, one of the things that you said, Aaron, don't look at the sometimes when we see all of the things on the outside of that circle, it makes us, we're sinking. It's simple, day by day, simplicities. Enjoy the simplicities and the simple things in life. Making your bed, brushing your teeth, being present. It's spring. Enjoy the beauty of things and the people that you love. And it's not about finding the right person. It's always about being the right person, and then the right people find you.
I love that. That is beautiful. What a great way to end. Be the right person.
Yeah.
That's
Don't try to
tremendous.
find the right person. Be the right person. And then, yeah.
That's tremendous. I love it. Well, Corinna, thank you so much on behalf of Corinna Harney-Jones. This is Mind Runner. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Go be the right person. Always remember, you are not alone. Catch full episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern